This is Lady Anne, owner of KPNL Radio and hostess of the Caravan Library of Lore, and I support TESA. As an experiencer myself, I have filed my own reports with them, and the professionalism and heart they have shown my case goes above and beyond. If you have had an experience, I cannot recommend TESA enough.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, Winston Zedmore from Ghostbusters. I want to let you know that Ryan Stacy, he's created the Experiencer Support Association, TESA. You can check them out at www.tesacan.org. Now, they investigate paranormal, UFO, and provide support to experiencers. But you can check them out at, like I said, www.tesacan.org and see for yourself if they're really Ghostbusters. I can tell you this, they are a non-profit organization. Good luck, have fun, and keep it blessed.
Good evening. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. TESA is a UFO, paranormal, and paracryptid investigation association. We investigate everything belonging to the global phenomenon linked to highly strange and unexplained experiences. We also connect experiencers with other experiencers, creating a safe, positive environment to engage and discuss this phenomenon without judgment, criticism, or retribution. From the land of the white rolling sands, on the southeasterly tip of Georgian Bay, to all of you listening around the world, as we simulcast live on KPNL Radio, we salute you. If you want to go back and listen to our previous episodes, go to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be instantly notified when we are live, not only for these episodes, but every single element TESA has to offer. On our website, tesacan.org, we have something for everyone. We have support for experiencers, data for independent researchers, and places to advertise for professional partners. This live portion of the show will run for about 45 minutes. We'll have a commercial break and then spend some time answering some of your questions in the comments. The show will continue immediately after on Patreon for our private members, so head over and become a member for the unclassified tier and receive additional content from this episode and so much more for only $7 a month. To all our Patreon members, you are awesome, and thank you for helping us heal the world. All proceeds go back into the mission and will continue to help us create educational content for you and your family. Become a member today by going to patreon.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Also, if you're joining us live on Facebook or Twitter, head over to our youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association if you want comments read out in the chat. We're only answering questions on YouTube, so head on over, hit that subscribe button, and start chatting. If you can't stay for the entire show, don't worry. Every Monday, we will upload the audio file to our podcast network for you to take us on the go. Okay, you ready? Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, February 11th, 2021, and I, Ryan Stacy, am your host this evening. Our guest for Season 3, Episode 4 is Jon Majerowski. Jon works in information security by day and searches for the truth by night. Jon Majerowski, via Phenomenology, Ufology, and Hermetic Mysteries, studies the connection between consciousness and UFOs. Jon is a third-degree Master Mason, 32nd Scottish Rite Freemason of Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite,
4th grade Rosicrucian, Capitular Masonry, Royal Archmason, a Cryptic Mason, and a of the Royal and Select Masons, and is also a member of the Zenobia Shrine. Jon, you can find Jon on Twitter, twitter.com/Jon Majerowski. That's JonMajerowski. And he has a YouTube channel called UFOs on the Level, which is the main reason why I brought him here, because that is a pretty wicked name, especially as a Freemason who understands that. So I'm representing that. So without further ado, welcome, brother. How are you?
How you doing, brother? Thank you for having me.
Yeah. No.
Doing well, man. Doing well. Thanks again, man. How are you?
Oh, good. Good. I like your mask wearing apron in the back. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, thanks, man. That just kind of like fell together. It the whole divine feminine thing is a really a big deal. It's becoming a more of a bigger deal in my life now as I do further research, and that I stumbled kind of on that bust of that woman there. And the apron I found, it was at one of those flea markets or something. It was a brother who had passed, and he didn't know what to do with it. So they had it like at a flea market. And when I saw that, I was like, man, I just can't let that hang in like a flea market.
How much was it?
I think it was like, I think they wanted $10 or something,
oh
10 or 15
bucks.
Yeah, I know, right? It's actually leather. You know, it might even be lambskin, believe it or not. I haven't checked it out, but it's from the date underneath it is from like 1938, I think 39, something like that. So
I had no idea.
Yeah, so I grabbed it and I was like, man, I just can't let that do it. And I tried to find the family and the lodge, all that. The lodge doesn't exist anymore. The family, there's nobody left. So I was like, well, that's cool. And I just kind of tied it up, because of COVID. And
yeah, no, it's all good. So for those listening for the first time or not having an idea of what we're talking about, those aprons are what we wear in lodge. I know we talked about masonry a couple times throughout the show, but that's what we wear, not to be confused with the silly hats from the Knights of Columbus. But so anyways, let's get right into it. So my first question I have for you today was how does someone who protects information for a living handle declassified and confidential information about UFOs? Would you not, be tempted to I guess not protect that?
That's a really good question.
I know.
Yeah. So it's funny. There's a thing in information security called the CIA, which sounds funny, but it's not the government agency. It's the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information systems. So that's kind of what I protect, right? So the confidentiality, availability, and that's kind of my job. I make sure that the bad guys don't get in, that the thing stays safe, and the systems are available when they need to be. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. But yeah, no, that's a really good question. There's and I'm by no means the cream of the crop there. I mean, there's some guys out there, and especially government levels, that just do amazing jobs every day to protect very important assets from not only America, Canada, other countries as well. So those guys, hats off to them. But yeah, no, it's a really it's an interesting job. It changes every single day. There's something new every day. There's new attacks that never end. So yeah, it's interesting to see the world from both sides, right?
Yeah, well, lots of responsibility too. So I guess, I don't know if you can say, but like, has anything, with those 3 letters UFO ever crossed your desk?
No, not per se. No, I don't work for any government agency at all. I work for a private company, but no, not that I haven't done any looking. So,
Yeah,
Gary McKinnon is one of the most famous, UFO hackers of all time, and basically, you can't call Gary McKinnon a hacker. He was from England, and basically, what he was saying, and I believe him, is that early on in the days of dial-up modems, he would get into NASA computers, and it wasn't blocked. It was just you remember the old dial-up, get on the phone, and what he did was he just would find numbers that were NASA, get in there, and there was no password set. And if it was password, it was just the default password that came with the operating system. So it was administrator for the username and password for the password. So he just logged in, and he said most of the time he wasn't, and he was just in, and he was just looking. And, I think the U.S. government said he caused like $10 million worth of damage or something like that from, hacking into NASA and things like that. But literally he just dialed in and was there. He didn't, and I think that's really kind of what saved his ass, to be honest with you, because he said that he saw, all the things that he saw was databases that had terrestrial and non-terrestrial officers. He had, and he saw photographs of the moon and Mars that were being like pre-processed and processed, and it was like airbrushed and pre-airbrushed, and it was like he was saying that he saw things there that weren't necessary, between the police and private lorries. And, he had names of ships and things like that weren't, classified. But, it was all those things that he probably jotted down or took notes. If he would have took screenshots or took anything like that, he probably destroyed that, because I think that probably would have been more damning evidence that probably would have convicted him. But in the end, they didn't extradite him. He has autism, I think. He's autistic. And it was one of the things that the British, Parliament, I think, they're kind of pushed and said, we're not going to extradite him, because the U.S. really wanted to extradite him here to the U.S. to prosecute him. And this is way before Snowden and any of those guys, right? This is way back in the day. We're talking like 90s, right? And then they just kept continuing the case into the 2000s. But yeah, that was one of the things. And there's another guy too, and his name is escaping me right now. But there was another guy that as well that kind of tried to do that, and they don't like that too much when you go after it like that.
No, they wouldn't like that at all. I mean, I put pressure too on my side. I'm not so much of a hacker per se, but more of a twist the words around and take a legal eagle approach, I guess, in the sense of can you confirm that this object was here on this date at this time? No, nothing exists. Oh, well, here's the evidence that proves it exists. Try again. And I've done that, and I'm actually currently doing that. And so it's kind of one of those, like, you give me the anticipated response, but I already have the evidence, and so
yeah.
Far so good. So far so good.
Because you're a private investigator, right? I mean, I just learned that about you, but you actually are a private investigator.
I am every day. As the Masons say, try me, improve me. That's no, I definitely am. And I can't turn it off. And sometimes, it's the evidence, right? I just follow the leads, and that's the thing. So I don't know if as involved as I am, if UFO came across my desk, I don't know if I'd be able to keep my mouth shut. So, even if it does happen and you can't say it, good for you.
No, I would be the first. I mean, I think I would be, because I've been so excited about it my whole life. I think I'd be the first one to be like, this is it,
Yeah, no, for sure. So my next question, kind of still on topic. So for our listeners, could you explain Hermeticism? And talk about how you apply that specifically to your UFO research? I'm really curious about that.
Wow. So I think it boils down to, I think it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But to me, I kind of take it all the way back to the Emerald Tablet of Thoth, right? Toth. I don't know. There's different pronunciations, right? And that tablet was found and translated by several different people throughout history. Da Vinci was one of them as well. And it basically lays out a series of I wouldn't say laws, but basically edicts, right? Things, axioms, whatever you want to call it, rules to live by, something like that. But one of the ones that always stands out is as above, so below, right? So that's one of the ones that I really hold on to. And, Thoth, Toth, basically was a lot of people have speculated that he was, one of the Egyptian gods as well. There's, all these other things that he was just, was he alive? Was he really a thing to do this? And, has it just been a ploy throughout history? But I've seen the messages in the Emerald Tablet continued on throughout the most religious texts on the planet, and, different things, secret societies, other things like that as well. So, there is some truth to it, Carl Jung, I think there's a little bit of Jung in there too. If you get into a study of psychology, things like that. So there's a little bit of that kind of just all rolls together, in that. So I think that a lot of it is your connection to something, and know that you're not apart from it, that it's not something that's just there. It's not something that, that it's unilateral. It's you're experiencing it, and it's experiencing you at the same time in a way that we can't really possibly fathom. I mean, if you think about that as above, so below, I mean, that can mean something different to everybody on the planet, but to me, I think that applies into, the study of UFOs, UFPs, UAPs or consciousness or everything. So that's kind of how I kind of gauge all of this and try to look at it from both sides, not just one sided all the time.
No, that's good. No, like I the as above, so below is very like that duality, right?
Right. Totally.
So the negative, positive, like that's everywhere too. And then of course UFOs are specifically for the sky, but there's also USOs, unidentified submergible objects. So as above,
Right.
so below, they could be in the water. How do they train for space? They train in the water.
Yeah, totally.
So there's so much. That philosophy, that concept, could very well be the answer to everything. And if it is above, then it is below. And then your reference of where below is and where above is it's subjective. But I agree with you on that. My research with the Emerald Tablet, kind of linking that to Sumerian mythology as well.
Yeah.
Havoc of Gilgamesh and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Without getting into the secrets of Masonry. This is really challenging not to talk Masonry with a fellow Mason.
Yeah. In front of the world, right?
It's hard.
It is hard. It is hard. There's so many different things. I mean, and it's not like we're just, I tell my friends all the time, we're not just sitting on all the secrets of all the mankind and we're just, can't tell you because it's a big thing. But, there's a lot of things that you and I experienced and have as Masons that other Masons all over the world have that have a direct positive relationship with our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's one of the reasons why I was drawn to you in particular when you mentioned your podcast is it a podcast or a radio?
I basically just got a YouTube channel right now that I just, put up stuff. So yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Twitter all the time talking stuff too, but yeah.
UFOs on the level. So on the level is, you want to explain to everyone who's not a Mason what on the level means?
Well, so that's one of the great things about Masonry. There's so many different, sayings and throughout that everybody uses on a daily basis. They have no idea that it relates to Masonry. You have on the level is one of them. So when you say to somebody, "Hey, man, it's on the level," what that means to somebody is basically you can look at it from a non-Mason point of view is just that I'm being straight with you. It's just I'm being true. Both of us are equals standing here. There's no BS going on. We're on the level. So. That's kind of the way I thought about it when I created my YouTube channel. I was like, I just kind of want to be straight up, what's going on? Let's just figure it out, everybody together. There's no need for division. There's no need for your team or my team, but all of us should be on the same level and be on the same goal to try to figure this out, for everyone.
We have to work together. And that's, and I know you've done some research on TESA as well. And that's totally. Like, exactly our philosophy too, and that could be why I gravitated towards it as well, because our mandate is to try and get everyone to enhance the work of those who've already done stuff, and collect it and bring it all togeture.
That's great
on the level. So forever wired in my brain now. So I might free advertisement like forever now.
Oh, no, thanks, man. But it is a Masonic saying. There's other sayings too, and that happen every day. I mean, one of them, blackballed, is one of them. Blackballed is another one. You can look that one up. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty much out there. I don't think it's a secret that we have to hide. But
what else is out there? I'm trying to think too.
Yeah, there's a bunch, believe it or not. I think cable tow is one of them as well. I think, there's some other things out there.
So how do you connect UFOs with consciousness? This is, I'm also interested in this because I researched this as well.
Wow. So, and I really didn't start down this path until I really got into Jacques Vallée, Jacques Vallée's books. I don't know I'm sure you're familiar with Jacques Vallée, and yeah, definitely. And then, the more as I studied and I learned more about, quantum field theory, quantum mechanics, things like that, both of those things started making more sense. Spooky interaction at a distance. That's what Einstein labeled it as. and from the experiments that they've been doing the past 10, 15 years, if not more. And then computers as well. So you got to remember, I'm a computer guy, right? Like I do IT for a living, information security. And then I started seeing what they were doing with quantum computers in the past 10 years. And it blew my mind. Like it's things in the computer world that shouldn't happen. You know, it's a 1 and a 0 a lot of times. And, you know, this is really nerdy, but when you get into programming things, you know, 1 and a 0 binary is two different things. One is one unit of measurement and 0 is another. And a lot of those are happening right now. 1s and 0s are blowing through this whole podcast. We're talking, you know, all over the internet, never all over the world, background. But the way quantum works and quantum computing works is that 1 can be a 0 and a 1 at the same time, and is a 1 and a 0 at the same time. So that just, to me, blows my mind. It's like, how does that even work? Like that, you know, and it's really hard to wrap your head around when you try to think of it in the regular vernacular of computing, you know. And then when I started doing more research into it, and then of course, you know, on the side of, you know, researching in clandestine activities and space things, and you know, I learned about 10 years ago or so that the Chinese actually launched a satellite that was a quantum computer, and it was a quantum communication. And I don't even know if this is public yet, but I mean, it could be. Look it up. It's probably out there now. But you know, they basically had a what they were trying to do is create a communication device satellite that was quantum based, that was unhackable. So because you can't hack it, you can't intercept the transmission of a quantum based system. It's basically unhackable. So they've had a working quantum computer in space now for 10 or 15 years.
Interesting.
I don't know if we do. I'm sure, I hope we do, but I know, it's a real big deal.
You know, like, also to get back on the consciousness part, do you think a computer could ever be conscious, like artificial intelligence?
Yeah, that's scary too, right? So then, like, so that just blurs the line. So then it just full circle right back to UFOs, right? So what if UFOs are just like a quantum conscious controlled vehicle or manifestation of something? What if it's just a device that interacts with and is driven by and maybe powered by consciousness? And if that's something that maybe a highly advanced version of AI could be conscious, technically conscious, then is it a living entity? Is the UFO itself a living being?
We got to catch one.
I'm sure we've caught some.
Well, they need to disclose that, right? So, like, that's the thing. There's so many possibilities. We study the people and the consciousness attachment to the phenomenon. We're finding in our research that it starts with contact of some sort, and then as the years progress, not realizing the association that some psychic ability or conscious enhancement has been developed. And we start to see that over the years, because when people report to us initially, they're just talking about the most significant event, but then as we encourage them to report more and timeline it, we're starting to see this. And if I'm seeing that it's possible that humans can manipulate this world through consciousness. So the idea of being able to manipulate a machine to fly it, remote viewing, powered, we see in the movies, conditioning is what they call it, you know?
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if it exists. Mm-hmm. What makes me sleep at night is that the government has it and they're controlling it. So that way it's not in the bad hands that we know of. Possibly.
Well, you're just prophesizing that the government's not bad hands.
Well, you gotta be on the level, man.
I'm just trying to play both sides here, man. You know. Like, I'm trying to play both sides.
It's very easy to say the government is hiding stuff from us. They have to, right?
Yeah, well, they do. Yeah.
But I believe that the reason is the why. Why do they do it? Because A, we might panic. B, we might not understand. You know, C, you know, maybe just simply none of our business. You know,
no, and I really do think, I mean, this kind of goes back a big time too to, you know, when Tom DeLonge came out, you know, and 2015, 16, 17, you know, before TTSA even, he was doing some interviews, and, you know, I think it was Jimmy Dirt, some other shows, and a lot of the stuff he was saying was that, you know, a lot of the stuff he was told, I mean, he just basically shut down for 3 days and was like, I completely understand why there's like a handful of people in the world that are doing this so that you and I can sit here and have this talk, that our kids can go to a baseball game or a soccer game. You know, we can go out and just, buy stuff on Amazon and live our lives. There's a real scary part of all this that they're protecting us from or helping us, trying to do this. And honestly believe that through all my research and all the things I've seen, it's not all roses out there. None of it is.
Have you ever had an experience?
I have.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I've had a couple. So I joke around about this and I say this a lot because, this is kind of a common experience. Jay from Project Unity, a good friend of mine, he's got a channel as well. I think he's, thanks Jay. He's chatting right now, but Jay, yeah, definitely. So Jay, has had the kind of experience with the orange orbs, right? And I've heard this from a lot of different people too. Orange orbs, like you think of a basketball, but maybe twice as big or, different sizes. And I always joke around and say it's the gateway drug to UFOs, right? Like the first time you see is an orange orb. And like you said, once you have that experience, you start to have other experiences, like different experiences.
We have lots of orange orbs actually reported to us on our website.
Do you? Yeah. So my experience was probably about 2 years ago now. I was driving with my wife or coming over a river near my house here, and it was sleeting sideways. It was near Thanksgiving, November. Sleeting sideways, pretty crappy out, real, just kind of taking it easy driving. And there was probably about a dozen or more orange orbs in the sky, and they were just kind of here and then moving, in like a sequence, kind of just stopping and moving. And it was like, at a distance, it looked like a Chinese lantern, for the same kind of color and shape size, But then when we got closer to it, it was just like they're here and then they're here and then they're here and then they're here and then they're, and it was just kind of like, that's bizarre. And I'm screaming at my wife, like, pull over. And she's like, no, white knuckled, scared as shit. She doesn't want, she saw it, and she hates driving at night. She hates driving in the rain, but like the phenomenon scares the hell out of her too, man. I love her obviously the most amazing woman in the world to put up with me every day, but like scared the shit out of her. And I get it. Cause that's not something you see every day, and I'm just like,
something you necessarily want to, participate in. She's driving. She's trying to get home in the storm. You say, hey, look, there's this like alien
amazing.
Let's go touch it. No.
Yeah, just go. Yeah.
Get home because
It's amazing though, because she immediately started putting rationalities together. Like it's close to Christmas. They're Christmas lights. And I'm like, it's the river. Who's hanging Christmas lights at 200 feet in the air? But so just all of these things that your brain automatically tries to go to. And it, totally was not it.
You've obviously investigated through the rational and logic behind it. Have you ever submitted it to anyone to be, as a second opinion, I suppose?
So, I always heard about MUFON, and I always heard about, they're just kind of front, in a lot of ways for the government. I mean, there's a lot of things. I don't know if you followed the Chris Bledsoe story, any of that at all, but Chris Bledsoe is an amazing guy. He reported his experience to MUFON, and they basically had a guy who ended up being actual still employee of the government, one of the 3-letter agencies that was the head of MUFON at the time, and kind of whitewashed the whole thing and just did that real bad. You can check that out. I mean, there's links and everything about that. But the experience that I finally did, so I had another experience this summer, right? Like I said, the orange balls of the gateway, the gateway experience, right? So the next experience I have is a lot more interesting. It was the 5th of July of this year, and 98 degrees, hanging out outside with the kids in the kiddie pool, just splashing around, having a good time. My 2-year-old daughter comes up to me. We have a deck in the backyard, and she lays flat down on the deck and says, "Daddy, lay down right here." And I'm like, "What? Never done this before." She's like, "Lay down." And I'm, "Okay, kid." So just lay down, and I'm head to head to her. Her feet's facing one way, my feet's facing the other, and I look up, and there's a white ball in the sky, and it was a white orb. It was just huge, not a tic tac, but it was just a white ball, and it was just there. And she's like, "Look," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's insane." So the wife, we're all sitting there in the backyard. The wife's looking at it like, I don't know what that is. It's amazing. We're looking at it, grab the binoculars. My other daughter comes outside and says, "Look, there's another one." So there was two in the sky. It was in the north and the south sky, like at the same time. And we're like looking at them, and I'm jumping the fence and I'm grabbing my neighbor, he's out watering his lawn. And I'm like, look, and I gave him the binoculars, and he's like looking, and he's like, I don't know what that is. What is that? And I'm like, I don't know what that is either. And they stayed there for so long, they were there and then just, gone. And so I reported that to MUFON. I was like, look, I know everybody from 3 states had to have seen that, it was there for such a long time, and it had to have been over an hour, maybe 2 hours. I'm not even joking. It was there long. Like I have video, I have, lots of photos, submitted it all, to MUFON.
So what did they find? What was their finding? They said
could have been weather balloons.
Who was your investigator? Remember?
Yeah, I gotta look at. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to the guy. But I'm like, seriously? He's like, yeah, DARPA's been experimenting with some balloons. They might have launched them from.
So if you'd like a third opinion, you can go to tesacan.org/reporting system, and I will take a look for you.
Perfect. I will definitely send you that, brother.
I will give you the treatment you deserve on something that, even on how it sounds, it could be explained. But I mean,
yeah, no, I mean,
even if it looks like a weather balloon, you can't confirm it unless.
No.
Well, depends on how well we work together, but.
Yeah, well, we could figure. I mean, I was trying to do just do a FOIA on Rite or whatever. I mean, it was going down that road, but then
I can help you with that too. If it leads to that, sweet. Like that's what I do. That's exactly what we do. We start with the case. You start with the report. I go through it. I mean, I give you my opinion. Some people don't like my opinion, but if you don't like it, then you move on. But you open
but
up.
On it, but. No. But honestly, what I did was because that was like, the first time I didn't report it because I was like, yeah, right. MUFON is just gonna be like, yeah, it was swamp gas or it was weather balloon or whatever, And I was like, I didn't want to. But this was such a long lasting, obvious, big thing for a long time.
And you still have video?
I still have video. Yep, I still have video. I still have all the photos. And I'm like,
is timestamp it. We can go back and look at historical. Like I can walk you through the whole thing. You basically will investigate it yourself.
Oh, brother, I did it. I had all the flights above me at the same time. I was taking screenshots of all the flights, the exact times. I took all the satellite shots at the same time. It was broad daylight, but I had all of that like screenshotted and sent to him. I'm like, here's the flight pass. Here's everything at the same time. Here's the altitude. I got a picture of a plane flying lower altitude than the ball.
Did he ever give you a report? Did he give you a report to explain his work?
No.
Yeah, okay. Just report. You're fine.
I'll send you the whole MUFON case number, and I'll send you all the files too. We'll figure it out.
Then I can ask them for it and see if they're willing to share, and then we can have a conversation about that later. Because that gives me to ask them if you have the MUFON number. Okay, so we have 10 minutes left before we hit the commercial break.
Sure.
I had 2 questions left. This one is kind of. So why did you become a Mason? I always like to ask that.
Yeah.
And how do you feel that UFOs are incorporated in the order?
Oh, wow. Great questions. Okay. So
I have some theories too, and I just kind of wanted to know if someone else thinks the same.
Oh, great. Well, no, so that's a really cool question. And I did it on my channel. I did why did I become a Mason thing, and it was kind of like one of my first videos ever, right? Now, so it sucks. Sorry, it's me on an iPhone before I got like a camera and a microphone and all that. But no, honestly, that's a great question. I owned a restaurant at the time in a little small town, and we had free Wi-Fi. This is back when free Wi-Fi was a big deal, right? And, a guy came in and he was always in there, and he was an older guy, a big, a Scottish Rite ring, nicest guy in the world, would just hang out, eat lunch every day, maybe have a beer, just hang out, just on his laptop all the time. And I'm like, finally, Roger's a nice guy. I'm like, Roger, what are you doing all day? He's like, I'm day trading. I'm like, you're day trading stocks? The guy was like, and he's like, yeah, I'm just day trading because you got Wi-Fi. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, what's going on? And I asked him one time, I was like, I said, are you a Mason? He's like, yeah. And I said, well, I'm always interested. I always wondered what he was like. He's like, you ought to check it out. And I'm like, man, I just started asking him all the questions that everybody wants to ask, like, is it the Illuminati? We're taking over the world. What's going on? All this stuff. And he's like, no, he's like, no, he's like, I think you're not, because by this time him and I were friends, literally the guy came in every day, and I got to hang out with him and talk to him. And, he actually got me my petition, signed it. I had an investigating committee come out, 3 guys come out, hung out, talked to me. I asked them any question I wanted to ask them. They asked me all these kind of questions too. But honestly, when I got into Masonry, when I first learned about it, I'm the first that I know of in my family. But I read a lot of history. I was a big history. I'm still a history buff, but early on I was too. So I was looking into more. I read a lot of Jim Marr's books. I read a lot of alternative history, things like that. And Masons always came up into it. It was like the Freemasons, and it always tied into the Knights Templar, and it always tied into all these other things. And I'm like, there's something to this. The founding of America, all this stuff. And I'm like, these, if there was something really bad about these guys, they wouldn't be around anymore, and it'd be like the biggest thing in the world. And if there's something really good about it, you kind of see that. So, I got into Masonry in the beginning. I was just like, man, I'm going to figure this all out. I mean, they got to be in there worshiping the devil, and I'm going to go in and tell everybody about it after I go in, and I'm going to let everybody know that these assholes are doing this. And, as soon as I went through my first degree, I was like, this is completely not what I was, thinking about. But this is the coolest thing that I've actually been a part of, and I felt like I belonged. I felt like I was home. I felt like I came back. I feel like I never left. It was weird, right? Like I'd always been there. And this, and I've said this before in a couple of talks too, but that through the degrees, there's certain things that people speak for you because you don't know the answers. People are asking you questions, but you don't know the answers because you're going through a process, which is weird. And I've said this, and there's a couple brothers that can attest to this, that when people were asking me the questions, I didn't know somebody was going to answer for me, but I was answering the questions. Like myself without my prompter.
Yeah, it kind of flew because you knew, and that's the test of character. Yeah, I know, it's good.
Yeah. So I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. And so I really felt like I belonged, and so it was really cool. But when I got into it then, and how does it relate to the phenomenon? It was just more like, Masonry is different for everybody, and you can go in it, you could, become a master Mason, hang out and just show up and eat supper once a month and, just forget about it. But you can go in and you can just dig into the history. You can dig into the research. You can look at the text. You can reach out to people that are Masons and, learn from them and keep going farther and keep, educating yourself. And once I did that, I started seeing the connections between Masonry and consciousness and self-study and making yourself better, making your community better, bringing everybody else around you up higher to a higher level. And, but I think in a way, the phenomenon kind of does that for some people, right? I mean, and there's obviously the bad part of it too. And I'm not going to discourage that at all. I mean, there's some bad shit that goes along, but in the most part, it's trying to bring everybody up, and, that's kind of what Masonry does. So to me, that's where I drew those connections to where, those two things are, codependent. And I do believe that in our fraternity as well, that, if we did need to keep a secret and it was for the betterment of humanity as a whole, that we could do that as Masons.
Oh, definitely. 100%. And I've always, there are no secrets. They really show us things we already know, but in a different way, so we understand it properly.
That's a good way to put it.
So there's also as above, so below, but then there's also so within, so without.
Totally.
And then that's where you have your triangle, your Macurva, your triangle within a triangle, trinity within a trinity. But there's your duality, your fourth dimension, fifth dimension, consciousness, all that other stuff too. So I'll just tell you real quick my theory on why I think it's more of a physical approach, more so of an association. So to use an example, I have a tattoo. Here's my Mason tattoo here, but this is the sun disk of Egyptian mythology, right?
Yep. So
my understanding of that is they saw a disk in the sky, okay, and they couldn't explain how it flew. They just knew it flew, so they drew wings on it to emphasize that whatever this was able to fly.
Makes sense.
And using that theory with a cross that we see for us Christian folks there in the Catholicism and Christianity, we see the cross here as it normally is, the Templar sword as for us Masons. But what if that also was something that was in the sky, and you can't really see it here, to compare that would be to being directly underneath an airplane. So when an airplane goes overhead, it looks like a cross. So what if back in that day, you know, these are things that they saw? And using that philosophy or that theory or that concept, I thought, especially with all the black triangles that's going on, the eye of providence, the all-seeing eye, with the circle in the middle, what if that, in the same sense, is also a craft that was moving from above? And the circle in the center is not the eye, it's whatever, the suction cup, whatever those UFOs are doing, the light, right? So it's kind of hard to see on video, but, you know, so you just change your perspective, because the cross, as we look at it like this, looks like a cross as it's been shown, as it's been worn. But if you look up at it and see the same thing, right? You're looking up to the sky. As you said, you saw your orb. When you're looking up at an orb, it's a circle. If you were primitive and you didn't know how to put that in words, but you saw a bird and you knew that the wings is what made that bird, make that association when you carve it. Totally. So that's where I'm drawing my theory from. And if that's possible, this is possible, and therefore I think that is like a craft with a sludge. And
well, you know, as you know, as being a Mason, that symbols mean a lot, right? You could say you can say a lot in words. You know, pictures worth 1,000 words, right? Well, a symbol is something that you couldn't even understand, but then it's so ingrained in your subconscious that through millennia you could see a cross and understand what it means. You could see a circle, you could see wings and understand what that means, right? So all of those things.
Back to the beginning, Masonry is the oldest thing that we know that exists. It's just we have access to the information, but we can't comprehend it yet because there's so many levels. Even like first and second and third degree, that was great. But then as you've gone, just like myself, the 32nd, right? Do you remember all the handshakes and passwords for all 32 degrees?
Nope.
No? You might be like, hey, you know, what's this before we get in? Otherwise, we're getting the old despair there. But anyways, we're going to head to commercial break. So I'm going to give you guys a little spiel here, and we're going to play the commercial. And then when we come back, we're going to read questions that you guys have been asking in the YouTube comments. If you're not on YouTube, head over to YouTube now YouTube.com/the Experiencers Support Association. Get your questions in. And so I'm gonna read this little spiel for you. Just trying to time my stuff here. Okay, one second.
Oh, you're good.
All right, so we'll pause right here, but we will continue after a message from our professional partners. Also, if you're listening to this live radio or a future podcast, head over to youtube.com/the Experiencers Support Association to see the videos that go with the audio. Remember, we are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, podcast by the Experiencers Support Association, and we'll be right back.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. And just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
The same thing that draws aliens to our planet is the same thing that draws us to others. Exploration, curiosity, sustainability of life. That's why we go. It would make sense as to why they're visiting here.
Travis! Quit playing around, man. Get back here. Travis!
The last thing I remember was this numbing shock. Stunning sort of a feeling. Very powerful.
Get away from me!
I was just out of my mind with fear, just screaming the whole time.
It's been theorized that aliens prefer remote areas because they don't want to attract attention. Whatever it is that they're doing, they would want to do that in a less populated area. There are multiple accounts of the same thing from people from all over the world. People that do not know each other, do not live in the same cultures, and they're all looking up, they're all seeing things in the sky. So it would be naive of us to think that we're alone in the universe.
My mission is to assist and help those experiencing this phenomenon in such a way that they're able to continue and live with it, and also in a way that it can be measured, quantified, and reinforced within today's society, so that way it can be accepted and no longer viewed in a negative way. One thing that I do value in people is the ability to sense and feel when something is right and when something is wrong. That is a natural ability that we all share. Now, when we combine that with the paranormal and ufological abductions or visits, I have this sensation that these abilities are connected. Not everyone can sense, not everyone can feel. However, those who can are typically connected with something that we cannot explain. And part of my research is not just to investigate the experience, but it's also to understand and study the experiencer to find out what they have in common with other experiencers, to try to figure out what the actual makeup is in order to be on that spectrum. There's a lot of it happening all over the world, and I do not know of any other study that is focusing on the individuals as people, only the phenomenon.
All right, welcome back. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. If you're enjoying this episode so far, head over to patreon.com/The Experiencers Support Association. Join the unclassified tier for only $7 a month. Your membership will get you at least an extra half hour of this conversation, with a bunch of other perks for becoming a TESA insider. Also, if you have experienced an unexplained event involving the paranormal, extraterrestrials, dogman, or any other paracryptid, head over to tesacan.org/reporting system. All one word. The more reports we get, the more we'll be able to understand this phenomena and how it affects our people. Let the others who have already reported be that example that proves we are making a difference. And if it wasn't for these reports, we would not be able to do what we do, and for that we thank you. And I'm still here with Jon Majerowski. How are you doing? Are you having fun so far?
Yeah, I'm having a great time. Thanks again, brother. I really appreciate it, man. It's been awesome.
Thank you for sharing your Thursday with me.
Yeah.
This is great. So we're going to hop over to the comments and see if anyone's asking questions. Hello, UFOs on the... Oh, that's you. Hello,
That's
UFOs
me.
on the level.
Hey, how you doing? I'm just chatting on the side. I'm just like, hey, how's it going?
Hello, Project Unity. Hello, Chantel. Hello, Lisa. Hello, Mo Jazzy. Brownbeard. Project Unity highly recommends to check out Jon's YouTube channel. Look at that.
That's my buddy, Jay.
Groupie. There you go.
Yeah. No, go check out Project Unity as well. That's amazing.
Right,
Jay does some good stuff.
All right, well, Jay, if you got some good stuff, reach out. Maybe we can do a podcast swap. Let's get him. Yeah, no, he's way ahead of it. You see, he's promoting you like a good one. He's got a question here. Okay.
Oh, here we go.
When you guys take questions, which is now, do you think that civilians in general would respond positively to full disclosure scenario, and if so, why? Good question. Glad it's you, not me.
Well, let's see. Give that to me one more time.
It says, do you think that civilians in general would respond positively to a full disclosure scenario, and if so, why?
No, not at all.
So that's the answer. So why?
Well, all right. So here's the thing. So there's Now, if you look back to War of the Worlds, right? Everybody kind of knows War of the Worlds. Orson Welles, 1938, 38, 39. Orson Welles. Is that me popping? I don't know. I don't think it is with the noise.
Yeah, no, I think it's mine. Keep going.
Oh, okay. No. Okay. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I was. So, so 38, 39, Orson Welles. I grew up. So when I got, and this is another thing on my channel we did into, like how I got into the UFO thing, is my dad had an experience when he was young. He had one when he was older, and it was just, he's a lifelong experiencer, right? And, so that's why I grew up just thinking UFOs, it was just real. It was, it's not something that to wear a tinfoil hat about, right? It's a legit thing, seriously. It was just like, it was just odd for me to see the other side of it, that people think that, oh, you're weird or whatever because you believe that. I just grew up knowing this is real. This is what happens. And, he told me that because he's old enough now. He was 81, right? He's 81 now. And he remembers, hearing from his family that when that came out, when War of the Worlds came out, people were literally jumping off of bridges. They were like committing suicide. They were killing their whole family. They were shooting themselves because they literally, even though they said through the whole entire announcement, this is a play, it was on Halloween even. It was like, this isn't real. This isn't happening. But they made it sound so real that like news broadcasts at the time, you got to remember at the time, there wasn't, television, things like that. It was all radio and you got all your news that way. So they thought that we were being invaded by aliens and that they were just burning cities to the ground and all this was happening. It was getting closer to them and people lost their minds. They literally, it was the end for them. They couldn't fathom it. So I think that when you get through and you look at all of the government programs leading up to, Blue Book, and I can't remember the Condon report, I think is what it is, that basically said that people can't handle the truth. And I think that was, made that. And I do believe that now more than ever, people could handle the truth. I think that there's a vast majority of the population, my generation and younger, that are just like, yeah, okay. They're being ingrained their entire lives with the picture of the gray alien. You say an alien, they can draw you a gray alien. You say an alien, that's what everybody will draw. It's not ET. It's not, some four-headed thing. They'll draw you an almond-shaped head with two big black eyes, two little dots, and a slit for a mouth. So I think that now maybe it is, but there's still that part of the generation or the civilization that is at that older level, or even maybe very highly religious, that just wouldn't be able to handle it. That being said, I think that a lot of people would. So I don't think there's ever going to be a time where everybody can handle it, but maybe I could be wrong.
Well, we got to get to a point where majority can handle it, and then then you calculate your risk and all that other stuff. It'll happen eventually.
Oh yeah, hopefully in my lifetime.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope in mine. Hello, Mother Scorpion. Hello, Chantel. She has a question for both Ryan and John. What was it about Masonry that you gravitated towards?
Ooh, go ahead. You go first on that one.
Me. Masonry found me. My landlord, who's also my the guy who owned the gym that I lived above. I was always intrigued by the signs and symbols. For some reason, I could always spot a square and compass in the middle of nowhere. And I would take pictures of it, and I would post it, and I would comment, and so wondering what was inside this inside this building. Mm-hmm. And I used to do that on the side, and I did it so often that my actual landlord approached me when I went to head into the gym and said, "So how long you been a Mason?" I was like, "What? No, never. I'm not a Mason. What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, I assumed you were because you're always taking photos and finding these things." I was like, "Well, they just kind of stand out to me." It's like, yeah. "Oh, are you a Mason?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh." It's like, "So what do I got to do to get in?" He's just like, "Leave that with me." And then
that was it.
That was it, really. So, but that was pretty wet. That was it. I was already in sync. And then if I look back, I was always in sync. If I look back to the life that I had, what brought me to that moment, and the life I have now, Masonry is me.
That's sure. Right, man. Yeah, it's so cool. No, totally, man. Yeah, and I was talking to my buddies Jay and Jean-Luc today, once you become a Mason, and even before that, I mean, you did it before, which is amazing. But after you become a Mason, like, you see things in plain sight.
So
Everything's hidden in plain sight. Yeah, there's so much more that's just all around you all the time, that you walk past every single day, drive past. You have no idea. You're just like, what is that, right? You never look at the cornerstone of a building and see something. You never look at any of these symbols that are around you, or signs that are all over the place that you have no idea, and it's always there, But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what it is, and just the ability, to make yourself better, to learn how to improve yourself. No, I'm not perfect. I'm learning every single day. But
the three degrees are the best part. Once the first degree, you come in as you are, you work on yourself on the second degree, and then you get tested and tried in the third degree. And if it doesn't work, then you go back to second, keep working in second until you're ready to be a third. But when you're in the third, that is the hard part, is you need to figure out where you fit. Mm-hmm. So you're the puzzle piece, you're ready for whatever's next, but then you have this lifelong journey to figure out where you fit in this puzzle.
Yeah.
And here we are.
I think we found our fit.
Well, it's subjective to what you're looking for. We naturally, you've never met before, but through the brotherhood, look how well we resonate, and that's just because you were drawn to it in the same way. There's a connection there.
Totally.
And to our female listeners, there is the Order of the Eastern Star, which I'm also part of. My wife as well, she's Order of the Eastern Star. There is a female fraternity as well, and as of recently, Grand Lodge has allowed a full female fraternity too, which is new.
Ooh, Canada, the Grand Lodge of Canada.
No, UK. York Rite, yeah.
Oh, wow.
No, Canada's not that sophisticated. We got to wait till you and then maybe the States, and then maybe us.
Yeah. It's amazing how we won the Revolutionary War, but they still are calling the shots.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We did win 1812.
Yeah, there's a lot of history there, but
so anyway,
we're still good.
Blake, hello, Blake. You are asking us what we had for dinner. What did you have for dinner?
I don't know.
Did you eat?
Yeah, I think I did. I can't remember what I had for dinner.
I had
shrimp.
pizza.
I think I had shrimp.
Shrimp? Nice.
I did.
Nice. And let's see here. Hello, Kate. Thank you for joining us. Facebook users and alike, you got to head over to YouTube if you want us to say hello to you. Another question from Chantel. So we're at the top of the hour. So here's the thing, too, is we have a 15-minute grace period between our Patreon special. If you want, we can end it soon, give yourself a little break, or we can keep going. What do you want to do?
Let's just hang out and let's answer some questions, man.
Okay.
I'm cool with it.
Right,
yeah. Thank you, everybody, for being here and hanging out. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no, this is great. Thank you for being here. So Chantel asks, what does John think about the idea of UAP, lights in the sky, being consciousness rather than mechanical?
Ooh, so I think there's a dual component to there. I think that there's... it's not just one thing. And I always get hung up in this, right? I don't know if CE5 is a big deal, trying to call crafts in or, call things in. I think there's not just one thing. I think everybody gets hung up in, it's a nuts and bolts. It's a craft. Or there's people in it that came here from somewhere. But I think it's just like the world we live in now. I mean, you drive down the road and there's a brand new 2021, Chevy. And then there's me in like a 52 Chevy, right? It's different cars. It's the same, manufacturer, whatever, completely different, shows to see a Model T, and then you see the newest thing ever. I mean, but that's just one type of thing. It's a car. But what if there's light beings? What if there's light craft? What if there's things that are just completely running on consciousness alone, that you don't need a physical body or craft to move through dimensions or space and time? Mm-hmm. I think it's all of it. I think it's all of it happening all at the same time. I think it's not one or two. I think it's just like all of it happening to us all the time.
Cool, man. Great answer. I agree. Mother Scorpion says, my many great-grandfather Bourgeois was in the Order of Malta in Paris. Was that the same idea as a Mason?
I don't know. What I've always, I don't know, I'm not going to pretend to know about the Order of Malta. The only thing I do know is that there's Knights of Columbus, any of your Elks Lodges, any of your Moose Lodges, any of those other things all take and borrow heavily from the Masonic degrees and the kind of order that they are. All of the Greek fraternities and colleges, things like that are all really based on the Masonic fraternity. And you and I